What's up, Internet? Thanks for joining us for episode number 15 of the Gecko Pod. We are a podcast for the gecko community where we talk about the hobby and business of breeding geckos. We're on episode 15. We're kind of deepish in. My name is Harry with Zero's Geckos. AJ hosts with me. He's AJD Reptiles. And today we are excited to have you on, Robby. Robby's Reptiles, America's best crested geckos.
Hey, look at
best
that.
reptile breeder.
In the building.
Robby, just to jump in, you're in Texas? You've
Currently.
been 3 years breeding?
Yep, in Texas.
Okay.
I've been here for about 6 years, I think.
Okay, cool. And then breeding for 3 years, right?
I think I'm going on to my fourth
More?
year. I pretty much started in like 2019, but I decided to do a business in 2020, so whatever that ends up being.
Okay, nice, man. And then, just kind of seeing your collection, you've built out pretty quickly from the time frame where you started breeding, right? How did that happen? What did building out your initial collection look like?
Well, should I do like the stereotypical interviewer thing? Well, that's a great question. No,
Whatever you want to do.
so, I mean, like when I first started, right, I found someone on Craigslist because originally I wanted to breed redfoot tortoises, actually. Specifically, I wanted to get into hypo and albino redfoot tortoises. And I was like, okay, well, this is going to take like 10 more years before I produce anything. So let me try to practice with another species, get familiar with everything that's involved in breeding reptiles, learning how to build a business up, everything like that. And so I found this species. I was like, wow, this is cool. Oh, look, there's so many different colors. I found someone on Craigslist that had one for $30. I went and bought it. And after I had it, I was like, holy cow, this is like such an interesting species. It's so interactive. It's so easy to care for. I'm going to go ahead and buy like 10 on wholesale from AJD Reptiles. And then I started just getting some more. And after my first year of having them, I ended up having like one male and two females, let's say. I had them, I bred them, and then I ended up selling the babies just because that was my goal. And what do you know, the $500 or so that I had invested in these really pretty geckos ended up making me like $600 or $700 that first season. And I was like, oh, that's not bad. I wonder what would happen if I took that $700 and I bought a $700 gecko. So I replaced the male, and then I bred again. And what do you know? That $700 male bred to the two same females made me more like $1,000 or $1,200 after that year. And I was like, okay, I can definitely really take this somewhere. And then so from then on, I decided to put like 200% of my income into it.
Yeah. How does that math work?
Loans, business loans, credit, things like that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So you went deep.
Oh, yeah.
Deep in once you started.
You could say that I went pretty deep into it.
You went pretty deep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. So just building your collection from Craigslist and finding affordable geckos and just multiplying it and upgrading your stock, things like that. That's kind of how you built up to where you are right now.
Yeah, sort of. I mean, definitely the first like year and a half, I was getting only like pretty cheap, affordable stuff, just trying to make things work. I got some good deals too. I always shout him out as much as I can. Robles Reptiles. I'm pretty sure he's out of the Crested game now. But he literally showed me the ropes with everything. And he sold me Kevin, which was like my number one, and I'll send you a picture of this if you want to overlay it. My number one breeder. Sure. He was amazing. And at the time, I literally cried because it was a $500 gecko. And that was the most expensive gecko I'd ever bought. And I was just in shambles on the inside. And then I bred him to a female that was a orange extreme harlequin. Now I know she's a triple X. And it made literally some of the most impressive geckos I've ever seen on the market to this day. And that was my first real like year trying to breed. And then from there, I was like, okay, luckily I was blessed enough to have a really well-paying job. Outside of this, I'm a videographer, cinematographer, hence the whole setup. And luckily I was able to put a large majority of my income, because I live well below my means, everything that was left over, I put into expensive geckos, nice geckos. But like, you don't even have to get expensive geckos to have nice. You can just know what to pair with what, and you can make geckos that are in the $500 to $1,000 range from only $200 parents or something like that. So money definitely isn't the only thing.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
You were doing some kind of selective shopping. Once you kind of figured that out, what was your approach to buying? Were you just kind of scouring Morph Market, looking for deals, looking for kind of traits you wanted to inject into stuff you're already working with? What did that look like?
I would consider the first, like, I would say that I'm on like my 3.5 year right now, but definitely for like the first 3 years, it has been taste. You know, if you ever watch like Gary Vee, just do this, do that, try this, try that. And I've just been trying out pretty much everything that there is currently to see what I like working with. And now I think after 3 years, I think I've 100% decided the like morph and everything that I want to chase for the foreseeable future. But leading up to it, it was a lot of, oh, okay, well, I want to get this one. I've always had an inclination towards extreme harlequins. And pretty early on, I made my very famous rule of nothing can have spots. I will not allow anything to have spots in my collection. I don't want, like, I've tried breeding super dows too, which was nice. And honestly, if you ask me, I think breeding super dows is the easiest thing in the world. I paired a gecko with 5 dots to a gecko with 20 dots, and I made a baby that had 150 dots. Like, and I was like, oh, okay, this is pretty easy. I'm bored of this. And I just immediately got out of it. But yeah, so I've tried out like pinstripe, quad stripe, everything like that. I feel like, pins are, for me, I'm not a big fan of pinstripe anymore, but I feel like quad stripe is so limited in how much more you can make it better, or I guess the skill cap is what I say. I feel like we're already there, and I feel like there isn't much more to gain other than size and body structure. So that wasn't one thing that I wanted to focus on. Lily whites have been awesome. I obviously wanted to get into that when it first came out. But yeah, I think I've always gravitated towards as extreme harlequin as possible. And recently I've become utterly obsessed with soft scale. That gene is so fascinating to me.
Yeah. So for the, you were mentioning how the morphs you really want to focus on for 2023, soft scale, some of those traits, any other big focuses that you have moving forward?
I just made some good investments into really high white geckos.
Okay.
Because I've seen the market shifting towards that. But I'm trying to, like, I got some snowflake females. I have some snowflake males. But I also found Tara Lay was selling this amazing, almost pure black and white, XXX extreme harlequin with no pinstripe. Decent head structure, pretty good size. And I had to have him. So I think that with that market, essentially my biggest focus from now on is going to be XXX. It's kind of what I've decided. I just think it's the most impressive, and I feel like it has almost an infinite skill cap. Let alone, like, I'm trying to also do XXX lily whites, which is something I don't think anyone has really tried to shoot for. Because, I mean, how do you even necessarily define shooting for a XXX lily white? You know what I mean?
What would you say is like the defining characteristics of what makes XXX? Because I think I have an idea, but I'm interested to hear what you say.
Yeah, so I think, and of course, I mean, all of it is really opinion, and, who's to say that my opinion on this matters anyway. But from my understanding, XXX is extreme harlequin without pinstripe. However, I also have created XXXs that have dashed pinstriping. And if you read Little Monster's genetic stuff, don't mean to brag, kind of a geneticist now, but when you have the pinstripe, right, it's stopping that vertical expression. And I've noticed that from all the ones that I've made too, which was so fascinating reading about that and then being able to compare it to my collection. So like I have 2 really awesome extreme harlequin or XXX Halloweens, and they're both dashed pinstriping, and that's why their pattern is able to be so striking and so, vertical. And then I have their siblings that I had paired them, or I have their offspring I had paired to something with pinstripe, and they don't shine a light compared to the mothers. And that's because of pinstripe affecting that. So when you have dashed pinstriping, I think that you can create XXXs, and when you have no pinstripe at all, that's the ideal form of XXX. And so you can have some with dashed, you can have some with no pinstriping, but if you have pinstripe, then it really can't be a XXX by definition.
Okay.
I see.
Do you think a big part of
I guess like...
Sorry, go ahead, Robby.
I guess like, right, so we had flames and then harlequin and then extreme harlequin. XXX is like super extreme harlequin is how I treat it. It's just the pinnacle of maximum vertical expression, maximum tigering, striping, pattern, etc.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. It seems like Triple X is extreme Harley with a lot of tiger in it. Like tiger really expressing heavily.
Yeah, like
and then obviously orange coloration in really strong amounts too.
Yeah, and also, I mean, right, so I have my new male Sigma Chad, who is from Terra Lay, that is that just black and cream. So now that's the two separate genetics of color pattern. You have orange color, and then you have white pattern, or orange pattern, white pattern. So I'm trying to work on both. Because I don't think a lot of people are focusing on it. And also just for me, it just looks the prettiest. Anything else kind of is like, oh, okay, I've seen that before. Like seeing like all the pinstripes that are really drippy, like I love a really drippy pinstripe, but I feel like we've all seen it before now. And like this female right here, Moonshine, I would kind of consider a triple X, not really because she's drippy, but she has a sort of shape.
She's so chill.
Yeah, she has made she's made one triple X lily white, and it is really interesting. I've never seen a lily white like it.
Interesting. Yeah, no, that's cool, man. I think I've seen that trend in kind of the stuff you've been buying and posting, the triple X stuff. So I'm excited to hear that. That's gonna be
good. Yeah, that's cool. I know you have you just recently posted about your super cap. You sent it back to Korea, and you have you got your Frapps instead. How's that been going?
So. And there's nothing wrong with the breeder that I got it from. He's fantastic.
Yep, got it.
The greatest experience that I've had exporting and importing from Korea. I was, I wanted to get into caps like everybody else and their mother. And my number one thing is I can't have spots. I was like, at the time I had come into some money from some good sales and from a loan. And I was like, look, I have the money. I want to invest in the highest quality caps that you can offer. My only thing is they have to be spotless. And I probably went through about 30 different breeders before at least one of them would actually reply to me. And one of them would actually say, I will look through my collection for you and find one that doesn't have spots. So the original deal was for 2 juvenile cappuccinos, 1 baby cappuccino, and 1 super cappuccino. This was before any of us knew about the nostril thing. And a lot of people asked, did you send it back because of the nostril thing? No, but it also happened to be a good reason, So we had done the deal, right? Bob's your uncle. They showed up at my door. I checked them out. What do you know? The only time that he had seen the super cap was when it was fully fired and it covered up the Dalmatian spots that were on its tail. And so I was just like, hey, I sent a picture and he said, oh my goodness. I had no idea. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I will make it right. I will replace it free of charge with my own personal stock of geckos that are my personal holdbacks. I'm so sorry. And I was like, cool. Really appreciate that response because a lot of times, I would just figure they'd be like, dang, that sucks, and then just not reply. But no, they went above and beyond, and it was great. And then I ended up getting it replaced with 2 Frappuccinos, guaranteed spotless, with good lineage that don't have spots. So everything worked out.
Is it a pair? Male, female?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't care either because, I feel like having a Frapp these days is just going to be an asset. As soon as anyone gets, a sable, or you get like a Chocho, let's say in the next few years, if he ever releases them, first thing anyone's going to want to do is pair a double visual or, even a triple visual straight to it to try to get as many odds as possible for genetic stacks. So whether it's a male or a female, I've got so many things that I can incorporate it into. So I haven't even looked.
Yeah. You interested in the Sorak, the Luwak, any of those?
So, before we found out about the nostril thing, I was so pumped about the Sirocks. I was like, oh, this is great. Yeah. Now we're going to be able to do visual xanthic Siroc. Better yet, I'm going to make the first visual xanthic super soft Siroc because I had a theory that if you bring soft scale or super soft, it will bring the head structure back. And, I was like, yeah, we're going to do this. I'm going to do this. And I was talking about how everyone should be trying to work for it. And then 2 months later, it's like, oh, they have deformities. Everyone hates you if you ever work with them or breed them or have them. And I was like, oh, no.
You can't.
Originally I was like, dang, that's going to be so awesome. But now I'm going to try to not do that. I definitely still think that there's plenty of scientific merit in trying to figure it out. See if it is maybe it's a limited gene pool thing. Maybe it's something that is directly right. So with the soft scale and super soft gene, You could argue that it's line bred. I'm just going to, because the internet likes polarized opinion, I'm going to say that it's attached to the gene itself, that when you have soft scale, they instantly just become bigger and have bigger heads as adults. No ifs, ands, or buts. I've never seen a poor head structure, soft or super soft. So for me, I just consider it fact that any soft scale or super soft will have the widest head that you can possibly have out of that gecko. And if it was just a normal, it wouldn't have that big of a head structure. And that's just something.
I didn't know
observed.
that about.
Yeah.
So is that something anecdotal that you've just been experimenting with, or is it well known?
It is on AJD Reptiles' website when he in his article about the soft scale gene. He says also, like, I don't know if it's 100% related to the gene, but all I'm saying, no, I thought it was a bad joke to say, but he's saying all I found was every single gecko that's soft scale or super soft has the biggest head I've ever seen. He said that he has one male that's 92 grams, and it has the widest head that you could ever imagine, and it touches the ground. There's no pictures of it, but I take his word for it.
Yeah.
We need pictures. I'm going to put it up if we could find it.
Yeah, that's crazy. I haven't heard of that or thought of that. But I do have one super soft female that is very large and has a huge head. So none of them, you're right, none of them have bad head structure.
Yeah, like, I mean, good luck finding a lily white with really good head structure these days, right? There's not a lot of them.
Yeah.
I have one female that's just a soft scale. She's got the widest head you've ever seen. She's like 80 grams on a bad day. Huge, amazing producer. The soft scale and super soft gene, and also, you know, it increases contrast, it increases saturation or vibrance, and it makes them bigger, and it makes them have better head structure. Why isn't every single breeder making it their number one requirement for it to have soft, or at least soft or super soft? So I think that's kind of, you know, in the next 5 years, people are going to be like, oh, you have an axanthic? Is it super soft? No? Okay, I don't want anything to do with it. Maybe not in the next 5 years, probably 10. Like, it's going to become a staple, I think.
Yeah.
I'm going to need to see a picture of that lily white. That'd be cool.
I've got her right here. I can grab her. My chair's just loud.
Sure, grab her. That'd be cool. And then we'll take a picture of it too, and we'll slot it into this podcast as well.
Robbie, can you still hear us or no?
I recently moved all these, so I'm having a hard time finding everything.
No worries. What'd you say, AJ?
Harry, something I've thought about with soft scale and super soft scale, something that's she is really nice. Yeah, big head.
Wow.
Something I've thought about, Robbie, though, is it seems like soft scale, I don't see soft scale available in every morph of gecko. For example, like
available in
I've not seen it available in every, you know, morph of animal. Like, I don't see as many, for example, like I don't think I've ever seen a super soft scale, super Dalmatian. I've never seen one. I haven't seen really much soft scale red stuff. I've mainly just seen like Harleys and pinstripes. Those are the two things I've seen in soft scale.
You got to think, like, right, who's the one that created it? And it was created, it like was discovered or founded, you know, like 10 years ago, maybe more.
Yeah.
And people were just like, too long, didn't read, doesn't matter. It's not a lily white. It's not a super cat. And they just didn't give it any mind. But like compared to, you know, other genes or other species, right? Like in ball pythons, if I showed you a normal, a blackhead, a redhead, and a yellow belly, compared to a normal, nobody, unless you are a trained ball python breeder, would be able to point out which is which. Maybe the yellow belly. And so I think that, you know, right now everyone is super obviously infatuated with the cappuccinos, sables, chocho, super caps, lily whites, and all these crazy combos that you can, or that's just crazy, really color altering and pattern altering genes that everyone's overlooking the minor things, right? Like hypo, cold fusion, super soft, and other things like that are a little bit more minute, but it's once you start stacking, that's why some of like the cold fusion stuff, some of them are unbelievably like unreal because they're what he calls SAF or soft as F, which is his, you know, he also created that, or he had it in his stock and started working it in, and it made the colors truer, and it made the blue of the cold fusion truer. And I've found that from any soft or super soft, it makes the blacks blacker, makes the reds like blood red. It just increases quality overall. But yeah, there is.
So do you have a lot of? Do you have a lot of that in your collection? The soft scale and the cold fusion.
Starting to. I only have 2 cold fusion that I got at a show, and he considered them low quality. And I asked, what makes it low quality? And he said, it's not blue all the time. And I was like, okay. It still turns blue, though, so that's good enough for me.
That's cool.
And then, but yeah, so the reason there aren't all of these things is, right, so AJD Reptiles is a wholesaler. Primarily, he's just focusing on either meeting that quota for whatever his wholesale is. I'm, of course, not speaking for him. But, you know, a lot of the more basic stuff, he's been in the game for a long time. But like quad stripes and the, you know, pinned harlequins, those are kind of things that I'm sure he's got tons of in his collection. So we can pop a lot of those out. And often, like I just got a 100 gecko wholesale from him because I was hoping that I you know, play my cards a little bit. Maybe I'll get a soft scale or 2 in there that's really nice and doesn't have Dalmatian spots. And I'm able to just like, you know, his phone number is on his website, which is absurd. But like, I can just text him and be like, hey, I'm looking for this male. And he's like, I'll go look for you. And I was like, awesome, cool.
He actually replies.
Yeah. And right. So you don't see a lot of soft scale, super soft in anything else. And I think it's just because everyone kind of like forgot about it, or maybe it just like got pushed under the carpet because of Lily White. But I think it's going to become a staple in the future. And so like, that's why I said I wasn't going to talk, or I wasn't going to state my plan, but like, I want to make the first super soft XXX. I think that would be just absolutely incredible. And I'm getting a male from him that is close to a XXX. It has pinstripe, but it's a little bit dashed, and it is pink line tangerine. And it literally is a like
that's awesome.
Pink trip. I think it's going to be the road to pink XXX. So that's kind of other things that I'm trying to do.
That's cool.
That's cool. Yeah, that's cool. You have it kind of mapped out and excited to kind of collect all these things. You know, I saw you have some of these F2 animals for newer breeders. What is F1, F2? What's the purpose of it? And how have you personally used it in your collection?
Well, I haven't gotten the chance to use it yet. I thought that an F2, you know, being only 2 generations removed from the wild, would have just, you know, bolstered genetics. He is taking forever to grow up, and he is taking his sweet ass time, which is fine.
Not taking diet.
Yeah, like I mean, he eats so much food, so many bugs, just not growing that much. And I don't know. I'm not gonna. I can't force him any more than, you know, force feeding him already like I am. Just won't grow.
How many do you have?
I had 2. And I wanted to have a female mainly because obviously, you know, in the future, let's say there's some albino comes out. I would love to get a male albino to pair to a bunch of things to test it out. So I really want female F2s so that I don't have to waste an entire, like one female's whole production on just outcrossing to F2, if that makes sense. But it seems that I'm only getting males. So I sold one of them. I forgot to who, but when I bought them from, I think her name is Goldline Reptiles, and she lives in Germany, I think. I don't know. And imported them. Really easy transaction, really smooth. And so F2 means that it's 2 generations removed from the wild, for anyone that doesn't know. And why is that important? Well, obviously with crested geckos, we have a very limited gene pool. We only imported or exported, you know, like 200 or so. I mean, the number is going from 200 to 350, and who knows how many were illegally smuggled after that point. We don't know, and we never will. And right, so let's say we've only got, you know, the original stock was like 300 geckos. And so, you know, just to make pinstripe when it was first found, they inbred pinstripe crested geckos for 15 generations in order to get a 100%. So having an F2, you know, we're 30 years into domestic trade with crested geckos. Having an F2 crested gecko, eventually, you know, once we do start getting, you know, a super soft frappuccino that's head exanthic or even visual exanthic, what I want to do is outcross that to an F2 so that I can freshen up the genetics, if you will. Being 35 years of slight inbreeding in, being able to outcross to something that's almost 35 years removed is invaluable in terms of, you know, revitalizing the genetics in those offspring.
Yeah, but does that make it take like a back seat? Because the F1, F2 animals aren't as, you know, like, since it's not as line bred, it's a little bit, will it make the ugly animals before it becomes nice? Is that how it works?
I would say absolutely, if not for one of my buddies here in Austin has a lily white that is from an F1 to a lily white, and it's one of the most impressive lily whites I've ever seen with okay head structure, which is just a normal lily white, really. So
interesting.
I think it's going to be hit or miss, but mainly the only reason that it's uglier is they aren't as fat and they don't have as wide of a head. I know that it's really weird too, right? So for us, we usually try to only breed our geckos when they're like 40 grams, 45, 35 if you're really trying to do it early, but you know what you're doing. But like the F2s and the F1s, I know some breeders that have F1s and they're full-time breeders at 28 grams because they they don't have 20 years of line breeding and making them bigger and bigger. In the wild, most likely in the wild, males are breeding at 20 grams, females are breeding at 23, 24 grams, and they've survived for millions of years, and that's just how it's worked. So that's another interesting tidbit is like, I was like, oh, how much does your female weigh? And they're like 31 grams when she's gravid. And I'm like, holy cow.
It's interesting. So I'll tell you both this. So I went to a large wholesaler back in the day of bearded dragons, and they were telling me about how over the last 20 years, they had selectively held back animals based on the number of clutches of dragons that the females would produce. And they said over time, they went from dragons that would produce 1 to 2 clutches to now they average like four clutches per female just from selective holding back of dragons that came from large number of clutch females. So effectively being able to double production in a limited space. Do you think that that's something that's taken place maybe inadvertently with Cresteds, where over time people have selectively kept ones from pairs that were productive and those numbers have raised?
Of course, without us even trying. Because of course, if I breed a female and she gives me 10 solid clutches when I bred her,
you're going to keep a bunch.
That's a pretty good female. I want to keep that in my bloodline, I think anyone would do that. I mean, that's I wouldn't say common sense. That doesn't exist nowadays, but like that's like a no-brainer.
I'm curious what's going to happen when you eventually breed like F1, F2s to see how many clutches those produce. I wonder what normal is.
That would be really interesting, and I will keep track of that for you because that's really cool.
Yeah, I'd be interested.
I hadn't thought of that angle.
Yeah, because maybe normal is like 4 clutches, 3 clutches. I have no idea. Maybe we've just like selectively bred these things to the point where they're producing 8 clutches, 9 clutches of eggs. I don't know.
I mean, I would, and this is totally just me guessing, but I would assume that in the wild, they usually only have like 3 clutches. I mean, first year females, you're lucky if you get more than 3 clutches out of them, right? At least from my experience.
3 clutches and then get picked off by a bird and it's game over.
But they pass their genetics on, and that's a win in nature's book. So
Yep, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, that's cool. Robby, do you have any other species that you work with or excited about, or are you just it's obviously mainly Cresteds, but what else do you work with?
Oh my gosh, can you guys hear that airplane right now? I've never had an airplane fly over my house before. Okay. So obviously crested geckos are my main focus. I wanted to work with redfoots, but that is a tragic story and didn't end up working out. And I can get into it after this tidbit. But my number one goal right now, besides, growing my crested gecko company, trying to make the next best, trying to be America's best crested gecko breeder, Shingleback Skinks are my number one, like my side business or side breeding project. I want to bring Shinglebacks to America, and I want to produce them ethically. I want to help, stop the smuggling trade with them, and I want to be able to bring this fabulous species to keepers in America, because it is incredible how little anyone knows about them, how little content that there is on the internet about them, and how little breeders that there are even in the world that work with them besides in Australia.
Yeah, they're so cool.
Yeah, I have to look up pictures of them. I don't even know what that is.
Really? Well, everyone calls them a pinecone lizard or a sleepy lizard.
Sleepy lizard? I'm gonna Google that right now.
They're often found smashed on the side of the road because they just bask in the road all day, and Aussies will run them over by accident.
Yeah. No, they're cool.
They seem they seem like they have a lot of personality. That's one thing I thought about them.
Yeah, and I was about to tell a really tragic story that I always hear from Aussie breeders is like the most common thing that you'll find with Shinglebacks out in the wild is one smashed on the road and then its mate trying to help it out of the road and push it and wake it up.
Oh, it's so sad.
Shingleback Skinks are one of the only monogamous lizards in the world. They also give live birth.
Wow.
In the wild, scientists have documented Shingleback Skinks being monogamous for over 45 years. They also live for like 60 years, 70 years in captivity, by the way, but also up to 50 in the wild, essentially. And
they look pretty cool.
They bond for life. So whenever it's summer, they will always be in a pair. The male will always protect the female until they have the baby, and then they will raise the baby together for like a year. And they will guard that baby. The male will stop eating so that there's enough food for the baby and enough water for the baby and the mom so that the mom can teach the baby. It's so bonkers how this is an animal that nobody knows about.
The family unit. It's crazy. They're like a full-blown family.
Yeah, like it's cool. Like my goats. Like they give birth, they chill out. I mean, the male doesn't really care about the female or the baby in goats, but like they're so intelligent, and so like when I was buying it, like I had to like go through a screening process to get it because they, really? You can't just get one of these from someone that has it.
Yeah,
they need to like you. They need to know that you're gonna, spend 20 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day with it. They need to know that you're gonna put an effort in.
How many do you have?
I only have one.
Okay.
They're nearly impossible to find, averaging $10,000 to $15,000 each, and incredibly sought after in the black market for either their skin to make jewelry, for either just to keep as a status symbol. They are incredibly rare everywhere other than Australia. In Australia, you can't turn over a piece of wood outside without finding one. And here, I would wager there's less than 30 in America right now.
Wow. Yeah, they look really cool. They legit look like pine cones. You could they just blend right in.
I've seen one or two. Yeah, the golds are so cool. I've only seen one or two Shinglebacks ever in person.
Oh wow, you've seen them in person at zoos?
I saw one at a zoo and I saw one at a Tinley Park maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah, 10 years ago, you'd maybe find them more in public at a show, rarely. Nowadays,
even then, though, I think it was just like a display animal. I don't even think it was for sale.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, nowadays, no one would be caught in public with one. You wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, with how
the zoo down here in North Carolina actually has some really cool stuff. They've got like multiple cool Ergernia species. They have is it Western blue tongues that have the like black on their face? Is that Westerns?
I think, Easterns? Or it's an Eastern, one of two.
I don't remember which one. I'm not super well versed in skinks, but they have those which are really cool, and they've got like Ergernia espolosis and different like really cool Australian skink species at the zoo, which is like 30 minutes from my house. So I'll go over there sometimes and see those, which are awesome.
Robby, do you have a video of the Shinglebacks? I know you have your YouTube video.
I haven't made a YouTube video about Shinglebacks, believe it or not. But I'm working on it. I want it to be the best freaking video that anyone has ever seen about a Shingleback because, well, there's not much competition. I think my number one competition is a 6-year-old that films on his phone, and that's where I've gotten all of my knowledge from this random 6-year-old in Australia.
He's got him in buckets.
And destroy him. You could crush him.
And so I haven't done that. There's a couple of reels that I've posted on my Instagram, just like funny stuff about it. But yeah, it's incredible. Like I go over and it scratches its cage every day until I come over and I pet it on the head, and then she'll close her eyes. I like to think that she's enjoying it. I think that she is. And I'm calling it a she. Just there's no way to really like sex them either. You have to either send in their shed to get genetic testing, or you have to, which also that practically doesn't exist in America, or you have to do an X-ray. And so I'm going off of what I've seen randomly on YouTube where like a female's tail can't bend very high and they have more scales at the waist than males, but then some males have really wide scales and some males can't bend their tent that high. Yeah, it's just, yeah.
Maybe the X-rays, X-rays are pretty cheap. That's probably the easiest way to do it, huh?
Not around me. I've been asking and they're like $400.
Oh, no.
Wow.
Yeah. That's crazy.
That's crazy. So I'm going to pivot a little bit here, Robbie. I just want to hear a little bit about kind of where you're at with your collection now with geckos, as far as numbers, kind of what you're thinking you're going to breed numbers wise in 2023. What your goal is maybe for the next few years. So maybe let's just start with next year. What are you looking at?
Well, currently I have about like 45,000 geckos. That's a joke. I have 350 total right now ish, give or take 100, more so give. And I think I did the math. I currently have like, imagine if I just turned around and started counting on this podcast.
1, 2.
I
Take
think
the next
I have
5 minutes to count it out.
Yeah, I think I have like 60 female breeders. No, yeah, wow. 60 female breeders, and then I have like 15 males, and then the rest I have juveniles and babies. So many that I'm growing up right now. But next season, I should probably be pushing towards like at minimum 350 babies, upwards of 500. I got like a bunch of females this year to just keep producing around there, I think.
What do you think is going to be kind of your sweet spot as far as, is there a point that you think you'd want to stop, like cap yourself, or like a level you want to hit and then evaluate?
Cap or no cap? I'm going to have to say cap. I think my limit is going to be about 1,000, give or take, right?
Adults or total animals?
Total animals.
Okay.
I don't want to have more than 150 adults at a time, I don't think. Because for me, I have a system. These tubs, I've essentially given the Container Store probably over $100,000 worth of sales. Sponsor me. And
I've got a couple of those in my house
from the Container Store.
They're so great. They're 12 inch by 12 inch by 18 inch, the exact perfect recommended size for crested geckos.
AJ got me on them. Yeah,
they're so good. And so I keep one full-time breeder in each one of these, unless it's breeding season. Then I'll put a male in with maybe 1 or 2 females. Depends on how I'm feeling, or the male. And so like this whole entire wall essentially is going to end up being like 120 like big adults, and then the rest are going to be in these small adult juvenile tubs, which I just bought like 400 of those tubs. Like, I think the Container Store hates me because I literally just put an order in for $10,000 of tubs, and they're
do you get them shipped to you?
I get them shipped to me, and the half of them are broken, and then I'm like, hey guys, half of them are broken, and then they're like, dude, no worries, here's all of them back, don't even ship them back, keep them all. And I'm like, oh man. And then half of those that get shipped to me are broken, and I'm like, hey guys, those half are also broken. And they're like, I am so sorry, here's another 50 free tubs. It's kind of a broken system. I'm sure that I'm going to be the reason they change it. And then after that,
and their shipping is free too. Like isn't
shipping,
it like over $100? It's free shipping, but every item they sell is basically $100.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
You got big pallets of containers.
Yeah, so like recently I just put an order in for 70 of these adult tubs behind me. 30 came in broken, and so they're shipping me 30 more. And I bet, and by broken, it's like they have a little crack. Only 3 of them were like literally shattered, like I couldn't use them. But what's great,
you're building your caging with just scratch and dent.
Yep,
it's like
fine.
I've heard the website Wayfair.
Yeah.
That like a bunch of my friends have bought like couches and stuff from them. And if you get like the thing will come in and have like one loose stitch in a couch, and you email them, they're like, great, we've refunded your entire purchase. Keep it. Like Wayfair's return policy is ridiculous. Them and Costco.
So is REI's return policy.
Oh, REI's makes absolutely no sense. Bring it back. Bring it back in like a
Costco. Year. Employees that are like, just treat this as a rental. It's fine.
Yeah. Oh, I'm going to go use this tent for 3 months and bring it back. Yeah, no problem.
Return it. That's crazy.
They were like, yeah, we had some guy I used to be really into rock climbing. And they were like, yeah, we've had guys like, buy rock climbing shoes, wear them for 11 months straight, come in tatters. And they're like, yeah, they just weren't the right fit. And we fully refund them.
And they tell you to do it. They're like, yeah, here's the policy. Yeah. It's like, all right.
Yeah, I gotta climb with you sometime, Robby. I climb too. I'm a rock climber too. So
I wish that I still could. I'm currently still rehabilitating. I got nerve reconstruction on both of my elbows. And I was rock climbing so much. And I mean, I was in the best shape of my life. I was doing like V8s on a daily basis, bouldering. And I was
pretty good.
Outside, I was working on V7s and V9s even, and I was just going, and especially like around the pandemic. I mean, I was rock climbing for 4 hours a day, 7 days a week. And,
oh yeah, me too. I lived
being
at the gym.
A gymnast and a farmer when I was growing up, and then being in the army, and then starting to do rock climbing and mountain biking, extremely extreme rock climbing and mountain biking, the nerves just gave up. And so I'm still recovering from that. But now for the first time in like 2 years, I've been able to work out like 2 days a week. So that's I'm getting back into it now finally.
You went too hard, man. You went too hard.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, I've got some nerve stuff going on. I broke my wrist pretty bad, and all my nerve stuff is all screwed up in here.
Nice.
But yeah, nerves take forever, man. They say I don't want to butcher this, but the doctor told me, I think it was that it heals 1 millimeter per month. So like if you have, like I've got whatever, this much, 5 inches of nerve damage. They're like, yeah, that's going to take like 8 months to a year.
Wow.
It's like,
that is not what my doctors told me.
Really?
Yeah, they were like,
nerve is slow.
They did,
tendons pretty fast.
Yeah. Yes, and then muscles the fastest. But so I had cubital tunnel syndrome, and it's like, when you hit your funny bone?
Yeah. All the
Imagine feeling that for 2 years straight. That's what cubital tunnel syndrome is. And so I had that bilaterally. And then when I finally got the VA to send me to a doctor to look at me, an actual surgeon, they were like, this is one of the most extreme cases of this we've ever seen. You need to get surgery right away. And I was like, that's what I've been telling them for a year and a half. And so finally getting it done, what they did is they removed the ulnar nerve out of the groove, like the little groove you have in your elbow. They took it out of there, and then they stitched it or sewed it under my bicep, so that it will never be near that groove again. Because what was happening was every time I bent my arm, it was popping. It was subligating is the smart word. It was popping out of that groove. So constant irritation anytime I bend my arms.
Both of them, huh?
I'm glad he got it fixed. That's awesome.
Me too. Very much
nerve stuff. Anyone who's dealt with nerve stuff knows it sucks really bad. So
it's horrible.
It's probably the worst.
Anyway, back to geckos.
Yeah, geckos. So...
Back to the Gecko Pod.
So when you hear, like we've talked with, for example, we've talked with Will and Audra, we've talked with Butler, just kind of hearing their numbers are big, right? Not as big as AC, not as big as, some of these big wholesalers like Mac or any of those folks. But for like a single person or a couple people, it's pretty big. So what makes you say that 1,000 number? Is that kind of the sweet spot where you feel like you can keep focus?
No.
I'm mainly asking because I wrestle through it myself too.
No, absolutely. I think about it on a daily basis. It's just, so like me, I know a lot of other people in our industry really like to like keep it, contained. Just like, I still do all of this, or it's just me and my wife. I have always been more than willing to diversify the workload. Because the less time that I'm spending, having to clean poop out of each and every single one of my tubs for hours on end, and I can put that towards getting better photos or doing a YouTube video or just researching or networking or being on a podcast like this or anything like that is immeasurably more valuable to my company's future. But I will never not be involved in it. I've always... I've just always, I'll always be involved in something. I need to put eyes on every single one of the geckos, because you can even have someone else that is really versed in geckos that's helping you as an employee, and they're not going to care about your geckos the way that you care about your geckos. I'll always make that a necessity. But for me, 1,000 is just the math that I've done is what I can comfortably keep in here. So I'm going to have about 150 of these adult enclosures. Worst case scenario, I know that some people have success keeping 2 females in a tub together. So if I wanted to do that, right, that's 300 adult full-time breeders. Then I have about 450 juvenile enclosures. And then I have 180-ish hatchling tubs that I can keep. You usually would do 2 per hatchling tub until they're bigger. So I've just, roughly the number looks like 1,000.
Okay.
So that's just in terms of actual space is what I'm going to limit myself at. Okay. And I'm okay with having that limit. One, because like I really want to be able to enjoy it and be able to focus on it. But so like even right now, I would say I'm currently at my 1-person limit. If I had any more, then things would start to collapse. Either the care would start to slack, or I would have to start really selling for dirt cheap to get them out of stock so I can make room or reduce workload. Yeah. But I have 1 full-time employee that is essentially just, hey, live rent-free with me and just help me take care of these geckos. He's like, cool, yeah, I want to get out of California. So like that's kind of the situation. Of course, not everyone can have that situation, nor can they have a situation where they happen to be already like one of your best friends and you've always gotten along. So I'm very fortunate with that. But then I also recently started taking on part-time employees because I know that Will and Audra at Flawless, they talked about how they have, or at least they talked to me about it, they have someone that they'll hire like once every 2 weeks or something to just clean all the tubs that they need cleaning. So like what they have, right? If you have, let's say 100.
So like a one-time gig job, like they'll just come in here, clean for 8 hours and pay you.
Yeah. So let's say that you have 100 hatchling tubs. They have an extra 200 tubs so that at any point, if one of the tubs is really dirty, they just switch it out. And then they just make a pile, call up their employee. Hey, we got a pile of 200 tubs for you to clean. They come over, you pay them $100 or something, and they clean it all. Cool. So I've started to hire on people like that are local to here that I trust. Because that's the other thing is if you're trying to get to hire people and you have things like Xanthics, really nice lily whites, or you have, any of these things that are high dollar, you can't just like put an ad on Craigslist saying you need someone to clean some tubs for $20 an hour, $15 an hour. You need to find people you can trust, hopefully people that are like-minded to you, that you get along with, that you can spend time with.
Yeah. Or maybe when you label your bins, you don't do it in a way where it's really obvious what it is.
Yeah.
The way you label it, you understand, but maybe they don't understand everything.
Like, don't touch this one. This one is $10,000.
Yeah, this is a sable head Xanthic, super soft. You're like, okay, don't touch that one.
Yeah, and like, so I only after hiring some more people now, and I pay $20 an hour. I think that's like triple the minimum wage here in Texas or something. But like, don't need it that often. Keep doing whatever jobs you want to do. I'll only need you for like 4 hours every now and then. So, kudos. But I think one thing that not a lot of, at least I didn't think of it, a good requirement for that, if you're trying to look for part-time, help, they need to have animal experience, not just like with reptiles. Like one of the employees that I have on is a keeper for high-end horse breeders. And will exercise their horses, take care of their horses, clean their horses, everything like that. So not only do they have the understanding of like, what the reality is of taking care of animals, they also understand taking care of $50,000 to $150,000 animals. Yeah. So that alone, it makes them not super terrified to open a bin. They're okay with animals. They understand how to take care of animals. So that when I was just talking to them, I was like, that is an invaluable thing that I need to put on the requirement list.
Yeah, I think we talked. Did we talk about this last? No, I don't know if we talked about this, Harry. But I've talked with a few folks about what type of people to hire, and in general, they say animal people that are detail oriented, but they don't have to be reptile people.
Yeah,
like that they have to see details, and they have to be comfortable with animals, but they don't have to be a reptile person. Seems like that is a good combo.
Number one advice from obviously all my years and wisdom of reptile breeding. Yeah. My number one advice is you have to be patient with, because like when I had my full-time employee here, he made mistakes. There's been times where he didn't close a tub and a gecko escaped and ended up dying because we couldn't find it. Or there's been mislabeling of eggs. You have to be a patient and understanding person. Understand, and I think any business owner needs to know, your employees will never, ever be as passionate about your company as you are because it's not their baby.
Yeah,
but you also need to be strict and like, hey, this has to happen, but you can't obviously be a dick about it. And you need to be understanding if there are mistakes. Like, you know, I had one that passed and it was an expensive female that had expensive eggs in her. And I was like, I know that you didn't mean to do this. This can never happen again. That was, you know, that might have been $20,000 in the next year. That's gone. Yeah. Just so you understand the gravity of that mistake. But you also need to obviously show like, this is how you do it. This is how you do things. Here's this. And it's definitely a learning curve. But once you have it, I mean, him and I can come in, take care of these 350 geckos in less than 1 hour. No problem.
That's awesome. Wow. Combined power. That's quick, awesome.
Yeah.
And do you think a big part of that is the slidable tub system versus having like front opening doors?
Yes.
You can move faster through that.
I can just do this whenever I'm feeding. Feed, spray, close.
Yeah.
That. Doing 4 at a time, super easy, open, close. You can see everything clearly. The decorations that I have, nothing touches the floor so that I can just grab the paper towel, slide in the new one or new liner, old liner. Everything, I really, almost to like an autistic level, I focus on every possible way to save every second.
Yeah. Like time trialing yourself. I used to do that for sure.
Yeah, and because
even down to what hand I open the bin with versus what hand, like what is in my other hand. Is the squirt bottle in my other hand? Is the food cap in my other hand? Like what things are? Yeah, I've done all that stuff, and you can drive yourself insane trying to figure it out.
I have driven myself. Like I would.
You're like
all right, so
laying in bed, sleeping, thinking about it.
Like I tried. Okay, so like my employee, when he does it, he has we have rolling carts. Everything in here is on wheels to save time and no muscle energy is needed because I want to be able to do this even when I'm 70. Everything's on wheels, and then we have a tray. He'll put out a tray with all of the bottle caps, and he'll fill out all the bottle caps individually. Then he'll go to the gecko enclosures and put them in and do it. Me, I drop those suckers in there and I'll just quickly squirt, and if I miss, oh well, I'll clean it up next time. It's fine for now. They'll eat it or something. And like I'm like really just eyeballing it, and he's like, more of that. He puts it down, puts it in the trays, and he's still really fast with it. We just have different methods, and like even with the babies, I'm like, do I need to like take the time to make sure it's facing right side up? I literally counted flipping it, so I would just throw the bottle caps into the hatchling enclosures, and I was trying to count the statistical likelihood that it would always land the right side up, so that I could save those seconds of having to orient it.
All right, really, that's too extreme.
I'm that crazy.
When your feeding's taking you an hour, you don't have to do that.
well, yeah, but that's only feeding, right? Whenever it's like feeding, and you got to, that one needs to be cleaned. Oh, this one needs to be cleaned.
Cleaning's killer.
Absolute best case scenario, I can get through all the babies in like 45 minutes. And right now there's like 150 tubs, something like that.
Yeah. My hatchling room takes me, my juvenile and hatchling room takes me 4 times as long as all my breeders.
Yeah, I've noticed that the breeders are less messy.
Oh yeah, breeders. I mean, I can do my whole breeder room like 25 minutes, and it takes me like 3.5 hours to do my other room.
How many breeders do you have?
Probably between like all the species, not all the species, but just like Rhacodactylus type stuff. Maybe like 100.
Side note: what a fun word that is, Rhacodactylus. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, or Coralophus.
Yeah.
Depending on which, I have leechies and gargs and stuff too, but
gotcha.
Yeah, probably like 100 something. But in my like juvenile grow out tubs, I probably have 140 that are between 35 and 45 grams right now. So I'm going to have to make some decisions on what I'm going to do. Because
I know that you and I, when we were talking at Tinley, we have almost like identical
numbers
collections in terms of numbers, workforce, or like effort, everything like that.
Yeah I'm gonna have to make some decisions on what things I'm not gonna work with anymore, or if those projects are just gonna shrink a lot, because that's kind of the hard spot to be in now. I feel like there's so many options that you can't do it all. I mean, you could, but I feel like you won't do everything well. And so I'm just trying to kind of get ahead of that and not make stuff I don't want to make. So
yeah, absolutely.
I'm blowing up a lot of my pairs.
It's like the same thing. I mean, with any field that you're in, like for me as a cinematographer, it's like, a lot of people in my field will try to have the camera that can do it all. Oh, this can take a bunch of photos and it has autofocus. Oh, and it can do 4K, 6K, 8K video. But like my cinema camera that has made me, that's made my career, only does video. It is gigantic, but it can do video really well. It cannot take photos. And then I have a photo camera because photo is just a lot easier. My photo camera only cost me $300, $350, and it takes incredibly wicked photos. And it's a 15-year-old camera, 12-year-old camera, because it only takes photos. That was almost a requirement for me, because as soon as you start trying to diversify the effort when it comes to R&D, then you have to sacrifice. So I'd rather go with something that only does one thing, and just have a couple of them. I always joke, I'm like, I don't have to carry all of them. I have a table that I can put the camera down on.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, that's cool. So, yeah, I guess I was asking you, what even was I asking you about? We were talking about collection size.
I don't remember what I did yesterday.
Is Gecko building?
Yeah, I think we're both a little ADD too, probably.
Yeah, definitely.
But we were talking about feeding and all that stuff. So talking about photo and video, this is actually something I had that I wanted to talk with you about, because obviously this is your profession outside of geckos. But I guess, from a photo and videography standpoint, what do you think are things that people are not doing well or could improve on maybe within the hobby? Let's start with photo, because I think that there's a lot of drama, honestly, recently about people claiming every photo needs to be, you got to use your phone and take it outside, and you got to get, you can't put it in Photoshop, you can't put it in Lightroom. That's like a cardinal sin. Where I think you and I have both talked about a little bit, understanding that you just need to represent the animal correctly. And often that is not using auto settings or using a cell phone. So why don't you talk a little bit about it? Because this is kind of your field of your professional career outside of animals. Yeah,
let's do this. Let's hear it.
Number one example, right? They'll say, oh, well, you need to use LEDs. That's not going to be the safe. That's not going to be your cure-all. Or people will say, you need to do it in daylight. That's not going to be your cure-all either. And some people will say it needs to be cloudy, blah, 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 so that the lighting is soft. It's like, okay, but then you're going to have a bluer image or a cooler image. It's a very deep topic to get into, right? So like if I take pictures of my geckos under this lighting right now, it might look fine on the phone. It might look fine on the camera right now. But when I do this, you see what it looks like before I color graded and corrected it, because the light isn't accurate, because these are cheap lights. I'm getting them replaced with proper lights. Now, what is a proper light? You have to get into CRI values, which is color rendition index, or the color render index. So you are lucky if you can get an LED strip that has above 92 CRI, 96 if you are incredibly lucky and willing to shell out the money. But so my video lighting that I use is 100% or 99%. 98% is low-end video lighting equipment, because when you have like a 90 CRI light, which is, let's say, just the cheapest little light box or whatever you can get on Amazon, it's going to give a color cast to the image. It's going to be green, or it's going to be purple, or it'll be warm, or it'll be cool, and it's not going to be perfectly representing to whatever is advertised. And for me personally in this room, right, I have 6,500 Kelvin, which is a little bit cooler than daylight, but passably daylight, but they have a horrible green cast. Other thing that other people don't consider, right? Currently my flooring isn't installed, so the floor is like this weird brownish green yellow particle board. Not good floor. The other thing with lighting, and as a colorist and as a cinematographer, it's always something I have to keep in mind, is light isn't just one direction. Light is going to bounce infinitely in a room at light speed. So by shining these lights down to our eyes, oh, this looks pretty white. It's reflecting off the ground, casting this greenish yellow light. So that's why when I don't color grade the images properly, everything looks sickly and terrible. Then I have to adjust for everything. And then by adjusting, then all the shelves in the background don't look black, they look blue. And then I have to desaturate blues. And then so right, if you saw like the nodes that I had to create in order to create a natural looking image in my YouTube videos or photos that are inside of the shed, I'm clearly manipulating the photos by every means of the definition. Right. But also when you go outside and you want to use, right, so let's say I don't even want to mess with lights. Whatever the hell Robby just said is going straight over my head and you want to just take a picture outside. Now you have to consider this. If you're taking a photo in the shadow, it's going to be cooler, but you're going to have softer light because it's not going to be harsh, direct sunlight. But if you're taking it directly in the sunlight, you're going to have that proper color-ish because that's just kind of what our eyes are used to. That's what nature has deemed standard lighting. You're going to have hard light, and it's not going to look good on video. Yeah. But it's hard for me to tell people, oh, yeah, no problem. What you want to do is get 2 C-stands, which is going to cost you around $250, get some 50-pound sandbags to hold it down. Then you're going to make a 10-foot by 10-foot scrim, which is essentially a bed sheet, so that the sun is now softened, and then you diffuse the light. Yeah. That is what I'm going to have set up outside because that will be the most 100% ideal setup. Daylight, so softened. I mean, that's how movies are filmed.
Well, so I don't know what I'm talking about, but you're doing, so say the sun is shining directly towards my face here. Am I putting that, you said scrim? Is that what you said?
So, yeah. So in the film industry, they call it a scrim. You can do all this stuff. It's just like a bed sheet.
Yeah, I know. So basically it's basically a diffuser, right? It's diffusing light. So is that you're letting the sun shine directly through that and then you are shooting like away from it or towards it?
So now it gets into the next part of what I was trying, or the tangent that I'm on is like you're getting into what direction do you want the light to be coming in? That's why I have the biggest vendetta against light boxes. I think everyone should go and torch them, burn them, throw them away. Awful. Because you're getting rid of any contrast, you're getting rid of depth in your image, which I understand, right? You're trying to do product photos. So obviously there is merit. But for me, I'm tired of seeing just the most clear JPEG image of a gecko on a branch. I want to see depth. I want to see shadows. I want to see, angles to complement that gecko's features and color combos in the background. Again, as a color scientist, I'm all about trying to make that pop and trying to work with the color science. So now what direction do you want to take your photos in? Honestly, the safest way you could do it is by photographing at noon or whenever the sun is directly above you, and then just have something like a bed sheet up above. Obviously, this isn't something that everyone can do. So this would be your best, most ideal way of doing a photo outside in daylight. You'd be at noon, so it's top down. If you look on my Instagram, all of my photos before the recent outdoor stuff, because I just have the porch that I can go outside and take photos on, before I'd have to package up the geckos, walk down into the living room, pile them all up, go outside. I got tired of that, so I set up a little indoor studio. And by indoor studio, I mean I had a $30 light above, and I would put a thumbtack in the wall to hold a poster board up on the wall of whatever color I wanted. And that alone, right, that's a $50 total setup. And I just had a color-accurate light that was diffused by a couple layers, and it's top-down lighting, so you could naturally see some shadows on the gecko, and it wasn't like getting rid of the detail, but it was still color accurate to that gecko. Then you can start having fun with it, and I would change out the colors in the background to complement the gecko. That's just me, of course, getting really nerdy with it because of my background.
So what colors have you found complement what color geckos? Because I'm super colorblind. So I feel like all this is lost on me.
And that's the other thing. My employee is also colorblind. So I'll be like, look at this. And he's like, I don't know what I'm looking at.
Yeah. So for the people out there that are not colorblind, what have you found that really is complementary to certain animals? I noticed you shoot on green and blue a lot, right? That's a big thing for you.
No.
Or you are yellow and blue? I don't
know. So what I've found to be the most complementary have been like a teal blue.
That's probably what I'm thinking
and a really nice orange. So, and also surprisingly, a really cartoony yellow complements every lily white ever perfectly. It looks really cool.
Interesting.
Just something that I've noticed.
Yeah.
But I've also had a lot of people say that they hate my photos. Cool. Like it's easy for me to do it. But so if you wanted to do that exact studio style, just look at a color wheel, Google a picture of a color wheel, And then like, oh, well, the gecko's primarily this color, and you can look at the complementary colors, which are just the opposite side of it. But often if I want like, right, so for my extreme XXX Halloweens, I don't want to have a blue background. That looks terrible. I've tried it. It's not good. So I just use an orange background. And then you can really see their orange, and it really brings out their color. With lily whites, a teal looks really beautiful. But, you know, what I've also noticed, right, because I also have been super nerdy about, like, when I was first posting pictures, okay, well, what got the most traction? What got the most people to interact, like, share? Photos outdoors do the best. And let alone, I know what focal length people prefer as well. It seems like a lot of people don't prefer. A lot of people, it doesn't seem, for my audience specifically, whatever that is, don't really like, and it might be because I have a consistent style, they don't like the 100mm macro or the telephoto lenses. They like seeing the really wide lenses, but not too wide, because I've tried a 15mm. Nobody liked that. But 28, a 24 or 28mm, or the sweet spot would be to shoot on a full frame camo with a 35mm lens. That can open as wide as humanly possible. People really like that because they see the bokeh, they see the gecko. Wow, contrast.
So like a 35 1.2, if you could have it, or a,
oh my god, I've never ever shot at 1.2 in my life. But then so usually 1.8 if I'm trying to do that really like dreamy look. But then you start getting into 1.8 territory where, oh, their head's in focus, but now you can't see their body's detail.
Yeah.
So now I've started, recently I posted a bunch of photos. I was shooting at f8, but on a 35mm, and they looked really awesome, really sharp. And another thing that's weird is I noticed that I started having sharper images. Originally, right, I was talking about how I'm really nitpicky about like saving every minute possible. So I actually have a camera that just has such amazing color science. I could just take the JPEGs, upload them, and I don't even have to edit them. Just go onto Instagram, maybe brighten it up a little bit, add some saturation, good to go. The cameras was just that good. Yeah. But I had really low quality somehow, and I would see people like fringe morphs, notably. You know, I'm sure that maybe they might go into Lightroom, you know, crank that sharpness up to 11, but their photos are always so crisp, so sharp. And I was like, what are they doing? What are they doing? I don't get it. Like, I'm really good at photos and video. It's my job, and I can't make them look like that. Well, then I did one batch of photo sessions where I actually edited them in Lightroom. That was it. The JPEG straight out of the camera wasn't compressed enough for your phone to view it properly and upload it properly. So now that I started just putting them into Lightroom, I won't even touch them sometimes and just go through Lightroom and export them onto my phone. Now they're incredible resolution.
So are you taking them from RAW to JPEG? Is that what you were doing, or what was the difference?
No, most of the time I just shoot in JPEG because I'm a very true believer in getting everything right in camera. I'm not one of those Sony boys that wants to like take a picture, underexpose it by 5 stops, and then bring it up so you have maximum shadow detail, 100% clarity, all of this. I like dreamy looking stuff. Like the lens that I'm shooting on is one of the softest lenses in existence. It's from 1965. It's radioactive and lead polished. It is not to show you all the details and craters in my face. It is to try to make me look as young as possible, and it's not really working.
You're already young. You don't need to try.
I need one of those.
And this lighting, I realized once we started recording, this lighting's not helping me because I'm looking down at you and I can see the raccoon eyes that I'm getting, and it's not butterfly lighting like I planned. It's now it gets into that. So when it comes to photos, back to the original topic, you're going to want to
bringing them into Lightroom.
That's what I noticed.
Finish
if you're
the
using
thought
a camera, taking them into Lightroom makes them have better resolution, at least on our phone. And that's probably just because of a compression issue. Which is another really deep topic. Like, right, I film in like 5K RAW. I have to compress that into 4K, and instead of being at 1,000 megabytes per second, it's only 100. And then I compress it, uploading it onto YouTube. But when you watch it on your phone, it looks really good. But compared to what I see on my $3,000 monitor that's 100% color accurate, that's ultra wide, 4K, 5K, whatever, it's nothing compared to what you see on your phone. But that's how all media is consumed. So you have to try to optimize for a phone. And another. Here's a Linus Tech tip for all the viewers. Don't upload if you're trying to gain, your audience's attention the most, you don't want to upload photos that are horizontal. In video, I love doing horizontal. I hate doing vertical video because I'm a cinematographer. But when you're doing photos, you want to take your photos and render them in a 4:5 resolution, because then you will nearly take up the entire Instagram screen when you upload it. Instead of uploading as a square or a rectangle, when you upload 4x5, Instagram will give you almost your entire viewer's screen. And that usually means that they will be way more likely to like it, comment, share it, etc.
Yeah.
You're shooting those portrait instead of landscape. And then also
always vertical. Sure. And then oftentimes if you have a good camera, you can film horizontal. Like I can film YouTube videos and then I can just have my editor zoom in and do it vertical. And it will have okay enough resolution to upload in. Yeah.
Are they just doing like a center crop on it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But right, the whole topic of the lighting and photos and accurately or unaccurately representing your geckos, it's an extremely nuanced topic, especially if you're talking to someone like me, because I just talked for 20 minutes about it and I haven't even gotten to my opinion or how to do it, you know?
So let's ask this, because I think a lot of the people that listen to this podcast, there is people that are probably do know how to take good photos. But if you were going to say like the easiest thing to get pretty good photos for most people, what would you start them with?
My exact camera setup. And I use it to hopefully show people that you don't have to fork out a bunch of money. Like I'm like only now, you know, once I start getting some good sales next year, I'm going to invest into a medium format digital camera to take my gecko photos, which a medium format camera, right? So here's a crop sensor. Here's a full frame sensor. Here's a medium format sensor. Just wicked detail. Totally unnecessary, but I'm just getting it because I want a tax write-off and I want to just have the best possible photos in the industry, right? Like you use a medium format to take a picture of the Mona Lisa for historical purpose, like so that generations later will never lose that picture of the Mona Lisa in the highest quality. Like there's cameras that if a car drives by a block away, it ruins the picture because they're that sensitive, right?
Wow.
You don't need anything like that to take good pictures to upload onto Instagram where they only show a 240 pixel image that is totally compressed. I'm sorry if I see.
No, you're fine. You got to be realistic.
So what I use is super beginner friendly. I mean, of course, every camera is going to have a learning curve. I use the Nikon D700. It is only 12 megapixels. And I know some people are going to be like, oh my gosh, it's only 12 megapixels. I can't possibly upload to Instagram and only have 12 megapixels. In order to make a professional billboard, the requirement is 2 megapixels, just so you know. And that is blowing up a picture as big as my building. That's because you're viewing it from really far away. But now if you're viewing it really small on a phone, that let alone most phone screens are only 1080p, stop obsessing over megapixels, everybody. You don't need it. What you want to focus on is the quality of the pixels. The number one camera that shoots every single possible Hollywood blockbuster that's worth a damn shoots in 1080p. And it's the RE Alexa. It's always been 1080p, and it always will be for the highest quality. But, Nikon D700, it goes for $300 on eBay. It's a 15, 12-year-old camera or something, but it has the best color science that Nikon has ever produced. And why do I say the Nikon instead of like Sony or Canon? Sony often makes skin tones look sickly, and they just don't have the most accurate skin tones. But if you're trying to get the absolute sharpest thing possible, Sony's the way to go. I don't like sharp, though. Canon's garbage. It's overpriced and not worth it. But Nikon is pretty great for the money, especially for only $300. You get a really good picture, and the lenses are really cheap. The 35mm that I use only goes for about $150. So for a total $500 investment, you can take the exact photos that I am taking.
That's cool.
What do you think about cell phone pictures? Are you okay with those?
I mean, a lot of my sales, believe it or not, are off my phone, even though I have all this equipment. You know, I've got $100,000 in video gear and everything like that. A lot of my pictures are still on a phone from just like someone DMing me. Okay. I'm going to interrupt the podcast. Yeah. My phone is about to die and I need to go grab a charger. I did not anticipate it dying.
Yep. You're good. Go do everything?
It. Can we not make a cut?
You're good. Go do your thing.
We're good. Okay. Yeah, go grab one.
Okay. It's probably going to die while I'm gone, so I'm going to hang up.
Okay.
No worries.
You're good.
Okay.
No worries.
I'll be right back. Sorry.
Yep. Yeah. Harry, I think it's funny. The whole cell phone thing is really interesting.
Yeah.
I know that there are, oh my gosh, I don't know. I just think people like the cell phone pictures, right? I mean, it's easy. It is easy. I think the biggest thing though, and when Robby comes back, we'll we'll talk about this, but the biggest thing is color grading and doing accurate white balancing and going back through and just looking at the images and making sure, like what he's talking about. I mean, what you can't see in Robby's room is that his ceiling, he's diffused the light. He's done things to block shadow that is cast off the lights. He's doing all of these things so that he can take better cell phone pictures in his room. But
so it seems more natural, the lighting. I mean, he's to outside, softened outside lighting.
He's doing a little more than most would. But even me, I mean, I need to work on my lighting in my rooms for cell pictures for sure. My lighting is so bad. It's very dark in my Gecko rooms.
Yeah. I'm doing the opposite. I'm taking horizontal pictures in a light box.
You're breaking all of Robby's rules. And you're using a Sony.
Everything's completely washed out. I'm gonna tag you, Robby, once you get back. I'm tag you on all of my pictures.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah.
But the cell phone pictures is interesting because it's hard, because even when I'm outside, it depending on if you're in the shadows or whatever, it auto adjusts, and it kind of messes with the color depending on what it's pointing at, how the background is lit. So it's kind of a little bit frustrating.
I keep preaching, like, I think white balance is huge, because like when you're just depending on what light that camera is catching, whether you're getting more direct sun or you're more in the shade, like he's saying, we shoot in super shady situations, which I feel like most Gecko people do. And this is an interesting thing. Most Gecko people shoot their images in the shade outside, and then the geckos look whiter than they actually are.
Yeah.
Because they're shooting in a place where the light makes the image cooler, which makes the white whiter and less cream.
Yes.
So a lot of those geckos, as you would say, are creamy. They're not white. Right?
They're creamy.
So
yellow/creamy. Not white.
Yeah, that's something where I think there's probably a lot of transparency that's needed on lighting. So that's something that we can probably continue to talk to guests about, is just lighting like that.
Yeah. I think the accurate, especially for the geckos, being accurate is the most important. But that's so, it seems like it's so elusive to get an in-person, this is what it looks exactly like that. It's almost never exactly right.
Yeah.
Right? It's much harder to capture.
Are you back, Robby?
I am back. Phone is charging. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, you're good.
So we were just saying, I don't know if you heard Robby, but I was just saying, I think a big thing that I would like to see change, a lot of breeders shoot images in the shade, and a lot of their images make their animals look whiter than they are, right? So they're not cream, they're white. Do you think that that's something that you see a lot and is misrepresentation?
So the other factor to that is, I don't think that the hobby, I don't think the majority of the hobby comes from like my background in cinema and color and everything like that.
Yeah.
I don't think we all realize how unbelievably easy it is to just go into Lightroom and desaturate yellow.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's true.
There's nothing stopping anyone from doing that, other than people will find out that you're doing it and stop buying from you. Really, I don't think that there's ever going to be a fix for it, other than specifically requesting, hey, can you take this picture outside in the sun, or can you take this under like normal lighting? Or what I say is, like, try to just go to a window and take a photo with the light coming in from the side. That's the easiest, cheapest. Everyone's got the sun for free. I've tried to rent it. It's expensive. You can just go to your window, side light your gecko, and it looks really good. That's how I did all of my first photos starting out.
Yeah, that's good. I think that people just need to, there's been a lot of people that are just really mad right now at photos they're getting and animals they're buying, and they're not feeling they're represented well. Not from me, but I've heard it from, I've seen a lot of posts and groups and stuff. So maybe that's something that that could maybe be the standard of verifying what an animal looks like. Because I think that's kind of been an issue is like, oh, I took it, your images look this way because you used a professional camera and you used Photoshop. It's like, well, your photo looks that way because you took it with a cell phone in your bathroom that's painted yellow,
Mm-hmm.
So
with fluorescent lighting.
Yeah. And so so I like that window analogy as far as just like a baseline of what's kind of just a baseline of if you're buying a gecko, you could ask a breeder if a gecko is maybe questionable. Hey, can you shoot an image like this, just next to a window with the sun coming through, so I can get a representation of it? That's helpful.
Yeah. But again, I mean, who am I to on this random podcast on the internet with billions of videos on YouTube, set the standard for a whole hobby? You know what I mean?
No, I just think it's a conversation. I just think it's starting.
No, yeah, absolutely.
A starting point.
Yeah. I mean, I will try to, because that's the thing is like sometimes like if I'm taking a quick picture on my phone, if I face the hatchling tubs, it'll look a certain way. And if I face the adult tubs, it'll look a certain way. But me as an honest man, I will look and be like, which one makes the gecko look as real as possible? Like what I'm seeing. And then I take that.
Yeah.
And that's mainly the discussion is just do whatever you can to make it look exactly how it is, And of course, all of us can be tempted to like maybe desaturate a little bit. You'll probably make a better sale if you just did that a little bit. But good luck sleeping at night after doing that, And then if you buy like a gecko, like if I bought this lily white, I think I originally bought her for $2,600, and that was like 3 years ago. And that was like the most I had ever spent on a gecko, and it was crazy. And when I got her, she was exactly what I thought. But if I bought her for $2,600 and she came and she was actually like a highlighter yellow lily white, and she had a little bit of cream, and actually her back wasn't completely empty, they kind of like photoshopped that, I would be royally ticked off. I would let hell break loose, because that's $2,600 for someone where that was their entire collection's value at the time. $2,600. That's a lot. That's a big deal. The conversation is, do whatever you can to accurately represent the picture. I mean, accurately represent the gecko. And because like sometimes I take a picture of a gecko in the shade and that's how it looks, and then I take it in the sun and I'm like, that's not at all how it looks on my phone or even on my camera. But mainly, you want accurate color, you want soft light, and for me, you want shadows. I think that natural shadows look good. That's kind of just my general, that's what I always go for.
That's cool.
Yeah, I bought a few animals from AJ. He takes, and he sent me some pictures, and then when I get them, he's like, oh, does it look like what, does it look accurate? I said, oh yeah, it actually looks better in person. And so I'm thinking like, oh, maybe just like everyone shoot like crappy cell phone pictures, and then when you get the animal, it's amazing, right? And so,
that's one thing. I mean,
something where
as much as my whole life centers around video quality, photo quality, equipment, lighting, all this stuff, composition. Majority of the geckos that I bought that are absolutely stunning, I saw a cell phone picture and I was like, I'll take that. Here's $3,000 or here's $2,000. I'll buy that. Because the gecko sells. You can be taking it on a Nintendo 3DS face cam, front facing camera, not rear, and take a picture. And if it's a good looking gecko, someone's going to buy it. Or you could take, but the other thing, right, is I've had some people that were like, oh, like you're just selling this gecko for this because you're Robby's Reptiles. And I was like, well, hey, some people would say that makes it worth less, but to each their own. But I tell people all the time, if you take really nice pictures of a gecko, more often than not, you can get some sort of price increase. Just like people will be willing to pay more if they can see more detail. If they can see how black it is, or see how, detailed the scales are, or even if you get macro photos of like a soft scale or a super soft scale's head to show that you think it's super soft or soft, that increases value, does it not? Why do people pay so much for an iPhone when every Android does more and is cheaper? Because iPhone, they have marketing, they have a brand. And if you are, constantly only showing the highest quality video, the highest quality photo, you're only showing your highest quality geckos, people start to synonymize you. That's not the right word. You become synonymous.
Associate.
Yeah, you know, people will associate you. That's the word. Associate you with quality, and they'll be willing to pay more. Yep. So like that's one thing. Like some people will be like, oh, I don't know if I want to spend $500 on a whole camera setup, and it's like, with that $500 that you put into a camera, one, you could turn around and start trying to make a business out of photography. Like you can go photograph weddings for $1,000 each. Cool. That $500, you know, you make it all back. But you can take pictures of geckos. You can take better pictures of geckos. You can get different lenses to get different styles of photos. And then you can start getting, you know, detail shots, wide shots. You can get creative with it. I will shout out, I think her name is Cece's Dino or some, oh no, I don't remember her name. She does.
We'll find it. We'll tag it.
She does the most hilarious photos of her geckos, and it's the most creative thing ever. And so as a meme, I would comment, I'm unfollowing you until you post them riding in a jetpack. And so every single post, I would say unfollowing until there's a jetpack. And what do you know? She went and she made a freaking jetpack out of arts and crafts.
Put out the geckos.
and she hung it from a tree. She put the geckos on it, and then she photoshopped out the fishing line so that it looked like they were straight up flying in a jetpack. And it was the funniest shit I'd ever seen. And like, I love that. People should do that. That's so funny to me. And then she recently did like a Mario Kart, and she does like cowboy stuff with them and puts little hats on them, which I know some people really hate the idea of hats on reptiles, but like, I just think it's fun. It's a good time. Yeah. You know, we all can take a picture of a gecko these days. Like, have fun with it. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that those are, I don't know. I think those are really good tips for photography. So thank you for doing that.
I'm glad that at least some of it was coherent.
I think, and I'm going to go back probably and listen to this and just kind of take notes too. But I think that, there's a lot to unpack there. And maybe down the line, that's something where we could talk about that more, and maybe just like a photography in-depth kind of a thing. So
yeah. We'll and I tried to do a video of it on my YouTube channel, but I didn't put too much effort into it because it was like when I only had 200 subscribers, and I was like, I just need to put out stuff. It doesn't matter. Just keep putting out stuff, and people will like it
right now.
Yeah,
that's where we're at.
Yeah. So I had one. I'm gonna redo it and do it really well. And the opening scene is gonna be like, step 1, get a light box. Step 2, burn that shit to the ground. Throw it away.
Throw it in a dumpster. No.
Yeah.
But Robby, when you were gone, I was saying how I have a light box back here. I'm taking horizontal pictures in a light box
with a Sony camera.
Every single one of them.
Oh goodness, yeah. I mean, hey, some people have really great success with it. That's the thing. Like I started out on Sony cameras. It's all that I used. But
that's what
whatever works. Is at the end of the day, we're all adults and we all can move on with our lives. If there's no reason to have some arbitrary battle over this versus that, this company versus this, whatever.
Yeah, for sure. So my last main questions for you, Robby, are, kind of a 2-part. What was, when you first started your business, what was your business strategy for growth and kind of what you wanted to do? And then what has changed and what is kind of what you see as the future of your business?
So when I first started, I was doing, Instagram. I wanted to go into Instagram hard. And the algorithm was different when I first was starting. So my strategy was, and I did this for almost 2 years straight, to post every day without exception. Oftentimes I would post 3 times a day, every single day. And that was before Reels ever came out or anything like that. Videos didn't do anything on Instagram. Everyone hated videos on Instagram. And so for at least a year, I know for a fact, for at least a year, I posted every day, 3 times a day. I would do 1 photo shoot a week where I would take probably 250 photos at a time, sift through them all, and I would have enough to be able to post 3 times a day, every single day. Anytime that I had a break after a shoot or in the middle of a shoot on a lunch break or getting home, going to sleep, I would post. I would do this, and I'd say, this is a really cool gecko. It has this and blah, blah, blah. Even if I was totally wrong, I was just whatever, just blah, blah, blah. Copy and paste a bunch of hashtags that I found on the internet, put it in there. Cool, good to go. Bob's your uncle. Right? Nowadays, Reels are the number one thing that everybody wants. Instagram will burn you at the stake if you are not constantly uploading Reels, or at least you shaking your butt with a gecko on it, right? The other part
nobody
is
wants to see
photos.
That's your next Reel, Robby. We want to see it, man, after this podcast.
So now photos are like the least important thing that Instagram will honestly probably punish you for posting photos and not reels at this point. But for me, right, I have no reason to grow past where I'm at on Instagram because, I mean, I'm sure that there's still, right, there's like Hong Kong clients that I could make. There's Chinese, that's Chinese already. You know, there's other countries that I could make really good connections and have good customers that want to import the stuff that I have. Because I've, from at least what I've heard, you know, like China and Taiwan, their gecko market is very, like, they're very against Dalmatian spots, and they don't want that from what I've heard from a few sources, right? And that's just like trend that they've noticed.
A lot of Koreans
there's definitely
are too.
Still room. Yeah, so like there's definitely still room to grow, but in terms of my American market, I don't think that there is a single, like, you know, bigger breeder that hasn't at least heard of me at this point. Not at all as in some sort of casual flex. I just know that I have interacted with almost everybody in the community or tried to. And like, if they want to buy a gecko from me, they will. If I want to grow my business in a certain way, it's not going to be from gaining more followers at this point. So that's why all of my focus now has shifted towards YouTube. Because
is that making like right now, making new or not even connections, but developing new people into the hobby now with
almost,
YouTube?
Actually, yeah. Really awesome little side story is like this week alone, I have made some amazing profitable sales, but also amazing connections with people. Like one of the local sales I made was a like 50 or 60-year-old couple getting into crested gecko breeding. And they bought like 6 geckos from me. And then after they were like, these are so awesome. Text us any of your available females. We want to buy them. You know?
Yeah.
Like that's awesome. And you know where they found me? YouTube.
That's awesome.
They were on a mini vacation in Austin. They saw that I was on Morph Market. They saw my name and they were like, oh, that's the guy we watch on YouTube. We should buy some from him. And then they bought from me.
There you go.
And
that's cool.
So, right. So who cares about making ad revenue on YouTube? That's
not
worthless. That's nothing. Like I'll use copyrighted music, whatever. Like the ad revenue is nothing compared to anything. I mean, I could go and look at the street and probably find more money than I've made on YouTube. I've had so many people randomly DM me or randomly email me or purchase something because they'll say, love your YouTube stuff, was looking for a pet for my son, so I went ahead and bought from you because we love your content. That is awesome. Yeah. That is the coolest feeling that some random person in the country saw you on the internet and then paid you money to buy one of your things that you made out of your passion and out of your weirdly niche hobby. Like that's such a strange connection, but it's really rewarding. So, so now YouTube has become my main focus because I'm not really going to gain anything else from, you know, other than like, I guess you can make money on Reels these days if you have over 10,000 followers. So like my own mini goal, right? I want to get to 10,000 followers. That'd be cool. Just so I have that. And then I actually use my reptile business as a portfolio advertising my video services and my photo services. Like, here's the importance of having high quality media for your company. Look at this company. This is actually my side company. Look at how amazing this looks. Look at all the engagement I have. Look at all this, blah, 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 blah. But now the focus is switching to YouTube because, you know, I get to build those new connections. People that I probably, because I've had some people that are like, I don't use Instagram. I don't use any of that. I just Google. And I'm like, okay, well, they found me off Google. They YouTube, you know. So there's different market, different audience. I know some people even like will say that you should blog. Blogging is a really great way to make certain other clients because there's people that digest media in certain ways. I'm not at all interested in catering to the TikTok audience because I hate TikTok. Yeah. But, you know, all of that. So for me right now, my focus and my goal is I want to become the Canova of crested geckos. That is the goal that I've set for myself. I want everyone, when they hear of, you know, Robby's Reptiles or hear Canova, like, wouldn't that be something if they were like, oh, Canova? Oh, yeah, they're kind of like Robby's Reptiles. That'd be crazy. That'd probably never happen. But, you know, and if you don't know, Canova is like they're the highest quality content on YouTube for ball python breeding. They're the number one ball python breeder like in the world, one of them. You know, they are synonymous with number one. That's my goal. I want everyone and the hobby to watch and enjoy the content that I make, talking in depth about these projects, talking in depth about like plans and the nuances and the pattern and everything, showing high quality video, everything like that. That is my new goal. And that's kind of why Like now Instagram, I don't really post photos. I do occasional reels, because they do well. But for me, I don't like the volatility of reels, like I've seen a friend of mine, his first reel, 3 million views. I've posted for like 6 months, I posted a reel every other day or like 3 times a week. Not a single one ever broke 6,000 views. It's just completely chance.
It's crazy.
But when I started going over to YouTube, and what's great is I can apply my video skills to these other hobbies and other niches like this and businesses.
Yeah.
My first few videos, I only had 100 subscribers, but it was like 1,000 views, 3,000 views, 5,000 views. And I was like, this is incredibly rewarding because I'm actually getting some sort of feedback. And it's not like people are just watching and being like, nice vid. They're like, wow, that was incredible at this timestamp. I really like this one's pattern. What would you say I should pair something like this if I have something like that? That is high quality engagement with my content. That is the audience that I want, and that's what I love. So that's why for me, my whole focus has gone to YouTube for branding, for information. Because how many times have you had someone text you and be like, what morph is my gecko I just got at Petco? Well, I'm going to have a YouTube video that just says, what morph is your crested gecko? And it's going to be like, hey, it's Robby's Reptiles. So I'm sure that, you guys are wanting to know what morph is your crested gecko. Well, let's talk about the most popular ones that are mostly at a pet store these days. That would be pinstripe, harlequin, probably going to be Dalmatian spots in there. Maybe if you're lucky, it's red. So now let's go over blah, 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 blah. And then show pictures, show examples within my own collection. So now people can just watch. And not only are they getting the answer, but they're learning, which is super valuable. And then they will always be like, oh, someone else wants to get in the hobby. They happen to have deep pockets. You should go to Robby. He's super knowledgeable. And I saw this video. You should watch his stuff. And it's just word of mouth from there.
Yep, totally.
Yeah, I think you have a leg up in terms of your quality of your videos. We watch a lot of crested gecko or just gecko reptile videos on YouTube.
Everyone's starving for it.
There's a lot of good stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff, but your quality and how everything looks and the lighting and the production, it's definitely probably top notch in terms of the reptile hobby for sure.
Thank you.
Hands down. So
I would still say Canova's got a one up on me because damn, are they consistent?
Canova. You'll get there, man. You'll get there. It's cool to see for sure. Yeah. So a few more things before we kind of land the plane.
All right.
Talking about community, it was really good seeing you at Tinley, by the way.
Thank you.
We were chatting beforehand and then we ran into you and it was really, it's really cool to chat it up with you and just hang out. And it was a good time. Do you plan on going to more shows? Do you plan on engaging the community more? I know you talked a little bit about how you want to be more, I don't know if you want to be more engaged in community or you more of the lone wolf status. What does that look like for you moving forward?
I would like to say that I am open to literally everything, and I simply am here to make beautiful geckos, and that's my only goal. I'm here to make geckos, and God willing, I would love to be able to pay my bills. If I can cover my mortgage and my expenses for food and be able to do this full time, I'll be in here every damn day filming a YouTube video, being like, this is the project that we're working on today. This is really cool. And then after being able to go onto my porch, light a cigar, and be like, I love life. This is fantastic. Because that is like, I have no desire to own sports cars. Like my car is a Toyota RAV4 that I treat as a garbage can that I throw hay and goat poop in, right? Like I don't give a crap about my car. I don't care about material possessions. All of the money that I make is always back into my businesses. Like I haven't profited my entire life. And I kind of don't want to. I mean, obviously now that I'm getting married, I'll probably need to start being a little safer. But like, what's the point of having a personal possession when I could just have, an asset, write it off, get taxed less, and be able to still advance my career and keep doing what I love? I love that. So whatever, if someone's open to that or someone has a problem with that, that's just kind of like, I will leave it all up to interpretation for anyone, but I'm just here to make awesome geckos. I want to go to so many shows. I would love to be able to go to every single Tinley. I would love to be able to go to the Super Show in California. But, I recently just lost one of my main jobs. So now Geckos, I guess this is official. Geckos is my full-time job now. And so I'm kind of, need to play it safe for the next few months, but I would love to be going to every single big show, making content around that, having a bunch of people on my podcast, which I don't really know what the direction of that is at this point. I want to be able to I have an idea of doing like, I want to go to all the bigger breeders. And by bigger, I just mean people that have interesting collections. It can be someone that has 500 followers. I don't care. If you've got cool geckos, I want to go film them. And so I'm thinking of starting, once things start going pretty well, I want to be able to go and like, AJ, I was going to extend this to you. I want to go and film your facility or film your collection, film you, talk to you, like tell us how you got into this stuff. Almost like taking my work in cinema, doing mini documentaries. And I want to do that for all the people in the hobby, because how awesome would that be to be able to see everyone's story, to be able to get to know them better as a person and see their awesome collection on really high quality cameras. That would be awesome.
I love it.
You'd be like Dave Kaufman, but high quality video.
I was going to talk to you. I mean, I was going to talk to you at some point, Robby, about doing like, I think it'd be really cool to see kind of like a documentary of just the rise of the hobby of crested geckos. I think if you actually did like,
Robby, you would be the one to
like,
do it.
oh, we got to go talk. We got to go talk to Alan Rapace. We got to go, kind of see. We got to go see. You probably should go to New Caledonia. See kind of maybe some breeders that were there in the earlier days, the ones that kind of came after them, and hear kind of the storyline of what everything did. I think would be really powerful.
Yeah, that would draw so many people to the hobby as well. I feel like if you put that out in a way, and a lot of people watched it.
It'd be a big endeavor, but it'd be awesome.
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing, right? Like if the gecko company for me starts doing so wildly successful, right? And then it's like, oh my gosh, I can't invest enough. What do I do? That I have a list of things that's one of them, right? I wanted to make a documentary, because like one big thing that the reptile hobby has always dealt with is people don't care about reptiles because they're not cute and cuddly, right? If people in Florida actually cared about the environment, then they would outlaw letting your cats go outside or your cats go outside, right? But no, they ban tegus. No, they ban boas. They ban this. They ban that. And they're hurting people's livelihoods. They're not understanding the animals. I want to make a mini documentary showing that. And then glossing over the fact that monitors are intelligent. They know your voice. Tegus are intelligent. Shinglebacks, these are smuggled all over the world because people don't respect the fact that they are hyper-intelligent creatures. They have emotions. They bond for life. They pair. I want to be able to go to New Caledonia, to the Galapagos Islands, and film all this stuff, interview all the most influential people in the reptile world, because how cool would that be? I think that'd be awesome.
Be super cool.
That'd be sweet, man. Dude, I love your passion. I think it's very apparent, and I think the more you do it, the more people will be inspired to kind of jump into the hobby and be passionate about certain things. And so, as we kind of close out, advice for new breeders: whether it's how do you get into the hobby? For you coming into the hobby, you brought your passions with photography and videography, and you kind of fused kind of those things as well, which is kind of cool to see. But for you, what would you say anybody coming into this hobby? What is a good way to break in? What should they do? Anything that you think would be helpful for them?
I mean, the number one piece of advice that I can give anyone, right? So I get a lot of questions about like, what should I pair this to? What should I pair that to? And Little Monsters put it perfectly. You want to pair for likeness. So if you have a red with cream pattern, you want to find something that's red with cream pattern. You don't want to pair it to something. I mean, and this is like, obviously us more advanced breeders or experienced, we can be like, oh, well, if you pair this with that, it can make this. And half the time it will do this. And hypo acts this way. So not getting into any of that, obviously you can get really in depth. But just talking about someone getting geckos, they've got an extra, $300. They want to get another breeder to pair for likeness. If you have an extreme harlequin with black base and orange pattern, find another black base orange pattern. And you don't have to spend a lot of money. A lot of people will see us throwing around these super, a lot of it is diminishing returns, right? I have a $2,000 gecko. For me to get one that's any better, it's going to cost $6,000, and it's only 5% better. Yeah. And to get one that's only 5% better than that one, it's going to cost me $8,000, et cetera, et cetera. And so obviously excluding, crazy genes and everything like that. So like money is not the important part when it comes to your pairings. The important part is pairing for likeness, pairing similar geckos together. And also you want, ideally in the best scenario, you want a gecko that is going to compensate for the other gecko's deficiencies. Like This female might have amazing pattern, awesome contrast. This male, but she has a super narrow head structure. Well, find a male that compensates, has a really awesome head, really good head structure. He doesn't even have to have the best color, the best pattern. If he is still that black and orange-ish, or at least kind of, doesn't have to be the purest black base color. Just try to pair for likeness as much as possible. Try to compensate for each other's deficiencies. More often than not, you end up getting way more than you ever thought you would, and it's really rewarding. The same thing happened with when I got, Nikki and Thalia. They were from my first ever legitimate pairing, and I paired a yellow tiger to orange triple X that was 8 years old, so she had no saturation. I didn't really know. And then the babies were neon orange with pitch black base, and they're still amazing, and their heads are massive. And now looking back, I'm like, oh, the male had a better head structure than the female, but the female was an orange and she was old. So that's why she was cheaper. They didn't realize that they just lose color as they get older, but her babies are all going to be neon orange because that's how orange works. And so now looking back with the expertise I have, oh, okay. But at the time I was like, well, that male has good saturation and a good head structure. This female has good pattern. I'll just pair them together. And then it ended up making the best of both worlds. And I never even planned for it. So for me, sometimes I'll even get a $200 female. That one's got really good head structure, even though she has no pattern. If I pair to something with a ton of pattern and good head structure, the babies are probably going to have 7 out of 10 pattern and good head structure.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's good advice.
Unless AJ has something totally different and doesn't agree.
No, I agree.
What do you think,
I totally
AJ?
agree. I think that understanding what things are complementary, I think is great. I think the biggest mistake I see people making is just, somebody shows you a gecko at a show. It's like, oh, look at this red pinstripe I got. Yeah, I'm going to breed it to this. I'm going to breed it to this phantom that's yellow. It's like, why? Why do you do that? Because I think in their minds, they just don't understand how pairings work. And I think a lot of new people just, I don't know why, but they tend to want to breed animals that are the least like each other together. Maybe because they want a mix. Yeah. I don't know. I don't really know why.
I mean, I was really new. And when I started, I thought the same thing. And I asked the people that I looked up to, I was like, wouldn't you want to pair 2 totally different things so that you can get the most diversity? And they were all like, no, please stop. Don't do that. And so you just have to be willing to ask that, and then also be willing to adjust your trajectory. Don't get offended if, because believe it or not, sometimes an opinion that you have is wrong. Don't be offended if you are wrong and people are trying to help you out of, passion for the hobby. We all want to make prettier geckos, and there's nothing worse than, making undesirable geckos that you can't do anything with, no one wants to buy, and then you end up giving to a pet store, and, maybe they don't take the best care of it. It goes to a bad home, and those animals don't have a good life. That sucks. And that's kind of a sad reality. And it's always interesting walking the fine line of ethics with animal breeding, because obviously you want to be able to make the prettiest gecko. But then, why is a gecko pretty? It's just humans placing value on color and things. Really, they're all just, and so it's it's a really interesting thing. But anyway, it's a whole different tangent.
Yeah, no, I think that's really good. Yeah. Those are good tips for new people. And I think I don't know, Harry, if we actually figured out statistics of it, but a lot of people that watch this podcast, probably people that watch your YouTube, Robbie, are learning these things, and they're trying to figure out how
a lot of new breeders,
how to think about first pairings and what morph is my gecko, and all those different things are things that I think we can help with just through collaborative conversation and being open to talking about maybe topics that are more beginner friendly. So thanks for doing that. So we'll kind of roll the red carpet out for you. What are some things that you have going on, that you have coming up? Just kind of tell us what you want to pitch for yourself, Robbie. I know you're not a big plug guy, but we'll let you do a little one.
I'll just mention some projects I'm really excited about, and I hope that I get some excitement in the hobby. I'm producing some het exanthic cappuccinos. Nice. I think they'll be the first in the States, at least. I know there's some Koreans that already have them. Also, eventually, if one of my Frapps turns female, het exanthic Frapps, I want to be able to make visual exanthic caps and Frapps in the future. But also I'm outcrossing a bunch of stuff to super soft because I think that that's just going to be my staple from now on. I think tangerine is going to eventually also become something that everyone needs. So like I'm trying to work on tangerine Frapps, tangerine super soft Frapps, super soft. Literally everything in my collection is my goal. But yeah, the things I'm most excited about would have to be soft scale and super soft caps, exanthics, Frapps, everything like that. But this upcoming season, it's going to be head exanthic caps, soft scale caps, and super soft and soft scale, anything you can think of that I have essentially. Lilies too.
That's going to be awesome. Yeah, I think all that super soft stuff is what I'm excited for most with you. That'll be cool.
Yeah. And it's crazy how nobody has been thinking about it this entire time. Like, I don't know. And now I just gave away, I guess, all the secrets. But like,
well, I have a handful. I have a handful hiding at my house that are going to do some work. So
good.
Yeah,
good.
Everybody's onto it. It's a race.
I know, right?
And so we can find you, Robby, at Robby's Reptiles on Instagram, on
TikTok,
YouTube.
I had TikTok for 1 week. And I couldn't do it. But yeah, Robby's Reptiles everywhere. YouTube, Instagram, website. Also robbysredrunners.com. I had an Instagram, but I didn't post anything. So
yeah. And then you also have your own personal videography, photography stuff that people can check out as well.
Yep, just my name, robbyboyd.com.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Yeah, we appreciate you, Robby. Thank you for sacrificing a night to hang out with us.
No,
it was exciting to wait for you to jump on here. So yeah, appreciate you,
thanks,
man.
Robby.
Hey, thanks you guys for having me. I really appreciate it. Big fan of the podcast too. I listen to every episode. Cool. So thanks for having me.
Thank you, man. Love to hear it, man.
Love it. Yeah. Take care, brother.
All right.